Say the prayer. हमें अपने मन को हमेशा संतुलित रखना है। इसी में हमारा आत्म विकास समाया हुआ है। वही में सर्वम ओम ओम ओम। आत्मनि में त्वम ओम ओम ओम। स्मारे स्मारे ओम ओम ओम। चित्तं शामे शामे ओम। स्मराणि सोऽहम् ओम ओम ओम। शान्तं चिन्मयम् ओम ओम। तटस्थं केवलम् ओम ओम ओम। स्मराणि शुद्धम् ओम ओम। So we move on to Sutra 43. Last time I had mentioned that Sutra 40, 41, 42, 43, in many ways they are connected with each other and they are different from the siddhis which were mentioned earlier. So same ideas are continuing now. So in Sutra 43, the Sutra reads, Bahirkalpita vrittir महाविदेहा ततः प्रकाश आवरण क्षय। बहिर्कल्पिता वृत्तिर महाविदेहा ततः प्रकाशावरण क्षय। शरीर के बाहर अकल्पित वृत्ति का नाम महाविदेहा है, उससे प्रकाश का आवरण क्षीण होता है। Unimagined conception outside body is called Mahavideha or great discarnate. By Sanyama on that, the wheel over illumination of Buddhi Sattva is removed. In another way, if we translate it, an unimagined or outside modification of chitta is called Mahavideha. By that, the covering over the light is destroyed. So again, a very simple statement is there that Sanyama is to be done in a certain manner. So chitta, which is always embedded in the body, that can be separated from the body. Now, this is a typical teaching of Sankhya and Yoga. We have to understand. Even the most modern so-called great philosophers also, and some important teachers who are very current now. Even can talk about like person like Descartes, a person like this who has written this Power of Now, and yeah, and there are more such authors, they do talk about the self being totally different from the body, totally different from everything else. So here, the same position they take, which Sankhya had taken long back. So this sutra is indicative of the fact that chitta is separate of body, separate or independent of body. Chitta assumes an appropriate body to go through the experiences of bhoga, which are in accordance to one's past karmas and their effect, that is vipaka. So here, before understanding sutra, we have to understand the position of the Sankhya. That as we are, everybody has got spiritual essence in the form of Purusha. And this Purusha gets attached to Buddhi at the time of the inception, at the time of beginning of the creation. Prakriti evolves, and the first evolute which comes is Mahat. So Buddhi functions at the Mahat level. And at this level, the consciousness gets attached to the gunas, attached to Prakriti. And from this Prakriti or three gunas, the Purusha, when it associates, what comes into existence is Linga Sharira. This Linga Sharira is nothing but Chitta. See, often people talk about Chitta. And there's a lot of confusion related to the word Chitta because although while translating, while discussing about sutras, we often translate Chitta as mind, and we often talk that mind goes through these changes, mind goes through these experiences. But if you look at Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, you will find everywhere the Chitta word is used. So yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So चित्त की वृत्तियों का निरोध ही योग है. तो चित्त क्या है? We had earlier also we had discussed at one point in earlier sutras, somebody had raised this question as to what constitutes chitta. So chitta constitutes of the all the karnas, all the faculties, all the instruments, all the capacities we have. And what all capacities we have? When we look at our own selves, body comes later. But within that body, what is the most essential part? It is the Panchagyanendriyas, Panchakarmendriyas, Manas, Ahankar, and Buddhi. These are the important factors which are there. So, according to Sankhya and Yoga, these capacities in the form of chitta, they can exist even without body. And when the situation is ripe according to one's karmas, then this chitta gets associated or gets bound to a particular body so that it can go through certain experiences of life as per the karmas. That is the position which is taken. So very clearly this chitta is separate from the body. Body is just an instrument. Our body is just an instrument. It is not nothing more than that. But what happens is when the chitta takes the form of body, then there is a very strong kind of identification which is taking place. So strong that we cannot think of ourselves as anything else than body. Our normal, ordinary consciousness is related to body. So all the time we are living in this body consciousness. Ultimately, in all the scriptures, no matter what philosophies we are talking about, there might be differences of opinion amongst the scholars and pundits who are fighting with each other to win over a brownie point or just to prove their point of view. Keeping all that aside, all the systems of Indian philosophy would believe in this, that there is this pure consciousness and this jiva is there. So this jiva is bound by body. Why it is bound by body? Because experiences can take place only at the physical level, only in the material. So when I am saying this, suddenly someone may have doubt. What is the need for chitta to assume body? Can it not remain? But chitta is gravitating towards body, gravitating towards material world because of the force of the karmas which are existing in the chitta. So, like in Bhagavad Gita, they say that in chapter 6, Arjuna asked Krishna, he says, you are teaching me the path of yoga. But suppose while wanting to go on the path of yoga, if something happens and a yogi dies, what happens to him? So Krishna says that any effort he has put in this direction is not going to go west. If he has collected certain sanskaras of right kind, then he will be again born in some other body which will be appropriate and suitable for exhausting the karmas which he has collected together, the impressions, the good sanskaras, and then he may be born into a noble family where all his sanskaras of yoga will help him to grow further. So that is the position. Now this position is acceptable and this position is accepted by all without any exception. So there is no exception here, any philosophy, except the Charvakas or the materialist and maybe the Buddhist. Because Buddhists do not believe in Atma, though although they believe in rebirth. See, everything else they believe in. Everything else. Except one thing, that Atma is, as a transcendental reality, Atma is there. That they will not agree, but otherwise the karma theory they will believe, transmigration they will believe, births and rebirth they will believe, karma siddhanta, because of the karmas we are born, the vasanas are there, karmas are there. So as they call in Buddhism, they call it bhava pratyay, or they call it this pratitya samutpad. So the 12 factors are there which are responsible for person getting birth, then going through certain experiences and dying, and again getting birth, again going through certain experiences. So as long as he has desires, and as long as he has these kleshas at the root, he will go on taking births and he will not be liberated. It is only when he is able to break the bondage of karma, he can expect to be free from the bondage and free from the life and the cycle of life and death. Otherwise, he will be always bound by that. So that is what Buddhists also believe. But what they don't believe is that there is a Atma. So that is again a debatable thing. At the practical level, we have to understand that it is the. So while we are going through certain experiences, while we have a certain kind of body, while we have certain kind of attitudes, while we have certain kind of habits, propensities, inclinations, value system, thought patterns, all that is coming from the past karmas we have performed. These past karmas have shaped our destiny, and we are today what we are because of the past karmas. So in this, what is important is, where do the past karmas find expression? How do they find expression? How do they manifest? They cannot manifest at the mental level. For the karmas and kleshas to manifest, they require a physical medium. They require a physical circumstances and environment. Without that, it is not possible. So, for example, if we see, if this will become clear from a little example, that suppose if somebody ties us down, all the hands and legs are tied, and then we are sitting, we are put into a room. In spite of having all the kind of thoughts and desires, nothing will be possible for us to do because we are restricted. All those thoughts we have, all those desires we have, they require physical medium. So body is the medium. And then as the person is born, psychologically also, a person goes on getting attached with the body. Because look at the infant of 2, 3, 4 months. How the formation is taking place, how their growth is taking place. So mother is taking care of the child, mother is touching very lovingly, and very early, the infant stage, the child is able to differentiate between pleasurable sounds and unpleasant sounds, what is safe, what is unsafe, what is likable, what is dislikable. And there's a self-identity in the child. And by the way, this self-identity is there in any living form. Even an ant has self-identity. So if ant feels that it is about to die, it will start biting, it will fight, because that self-identity is in danger. So every living creature has got this self-identity. And in human beings, when the child is growing, this self-identity, in last class I had mentioned, to be a healthy individual unit of the society, the person has to have a good sense of self. He has to have a good self-esteem. Psychologically, who is a healthy person? A healthy person who has got a very good self-esteem, and he has got this sense of self, self-awareness, and sense of self, where he understands himself as an entity. So now ultimately all this is getting connected to the body, and very early in the age we are developing this body sense, and so much so that we consider this body as everything. In Indian scriptures, it is called देहात्म बुद्धि. देहात्म बुद्धि, हमारी देह ही हमारी आत्मा है. Our body only is our soul. That is the kind of understanding, perception we develop, and accordingly we live our life. We always protect our body, we pamper our body. There is a very strong sense of identification. And I am the body, this conception is there due to avidya. Because what is avidya? Because there is lack of knowledge of discrimination between the chitta, which is comprising of the faculties, and atma. We do not know anything much about it. And how the body is formed, there is no knowledge of this. So somewhere this avidya plays its role. Again, you would find all the philosophies of India, they may differ on various points, but on avidya, they will not differ. They all agree on avidya. Buddha agrees, Mahavir agrees, all the 6 systems of philosophy, Vedic philosophy, they all agree on this, that we are born because of the latent impressions of avidya. Avidya is at the root cause. And what is vidya and what is avidya? Avidya is failure to recognize the truth. Avidya is lack of discrimination between the right and wrong, or the permanent and impermanent, or between the pure consciousness and the material world. That is what is avidya. So avidya is the latent sanskara which is responsible for the body coming into being. So this strong impression creates dehatma sanskar. So we had done this when we were doing chapter 2. If you remember, we had done avidya in great detail. There are in fact 3-4 important shlokas related to avidya. So there one of the sutra is 5th sutra of chapter 2. Anitya ashuchi dukkha anatmasu nitya shuchi sukha atma khyati avidya. What is avidya? Avidya is to take something as impermanent as permanent. When we take something which is impermanent as permanent, we are doing that because of avidya. So if the body is taken as impermanent, then we know that body is not permanent, but we take it as a permanent, although it is impermanent. So that is avidya. Taking something which is impure as pure is avidya. Taking something which is non-self as self is avidya. So this way, the avidya, four characteristics of anitya, ashuchi, dukkha, anatmasu. Dukkha is also taken as sukha. Sometimes we go through life experiences which we consider are very important to us, and they are giving us a lot of pleasure. But they are not really actually pleasurable, because we are creating pain for ourselves. So dukkha very soon sukha very soon turns into dukkha. So these four characteristics of avidya we have already discussed. I'm just briefly mentioning why this important identification is there. So this body is what my true self is. This is what we think. This is the perception. What is the avidya? Avidya is the perception that my true self is this body itself. And this creates a very strong bond and identification of chitta with body. All thoughts and actions are based on this strong identification. Although intellectually we know that this body is temporary and will decay. One day it will decay and one day it will die. But we think and act as if it is going to be there with us forever. That is the first character of avidya, to consider anitya as nitya. Body is impermanent, but we take it as a permanent. Because if you look at our behavior, that behavior is indicative of that. We fight for trivial things, we fight for very small things. I jokingly sometimes used to give example long back. You know, those people who have traveled in local trains in Mumbai, they will understand what is the importance of the fourth seat. Normally, in a row, three people are sitting, but in Mumbai, they will request people to move a little so that the fourth person can be accommodated. This is a typical situation of Mumbaikars, people living in Mumbai. I have done it for several years because I have traveled always. I was in this way. You call it lucky, unlucky, but I had to travel a lot in local trains to go to work, to go to my office, and I have some very strong experiences in local trains. So when we request for fourth seat, people will not budge. People will just move a little as if they will act as if they are moving, but they will not act, really move, and they will not provide space. Everyone will be clinging to their seats as if the life and death depends on that seat. Just imagine, it's a journey of 1 hour maximum, half an hour for some people 20-25 minutes. But in 20-25 minutes, the seat which we are getting, one is clinging to that seat as if the entire life and death is dependent on that. And there will be big fights on that. There will be big fights on seat sharing. And look at the expression of the people who got the seat in first attempt. They will as if they have won a World Cup. That kind of joy will be there. Every day this joy was there. Anybody who got this seat, he'll be joyful. So such a trivial thing, we make it so important. Like that, we fight for everything tooth and nail, forgetting that everything is so impermanent. It is within few moments, within few hours, within few minutes, it is going to go, and it will not have any value. But still, we fight as if it is a moment for us in eternity, and eternally it is going to be with us. So sometimes whenever we are behaving in a manner where we are identified, and when we are forced by the kleshas, we are thinking that as if we are going to be there always on this earth, and always we are going into be in this same position. Now, this is the conception we have. This is the perception, and this is false perception. A yogi is one who always discriminates between the body and consciousness. And he is also aware that this life is transitory. It is transient. It is going to go sometime soon. So he lives in such a way that to maybe, it is the last day. So very learned monk, he attained enlightenment. So a disciple came to know that master has attained enlightenment. So some curious disciple went to the master and he asked, Master, now that you have attained enlightenment, what do you do? How do you live your life? So he said, whatever I was doing earlier, now also I am doing that. And another thing is very important thing he said, that I live in a manner where I feel that as if this moment is my last moment. That is how I live. Today might be my last day. So his disciple didn't understand the depth of it. He said, Master, but everybody knows that life is impermanent and anything can happen anytime. I also intellectually know that what you are saying, I also know it. I have that knowledge, but that doesn't make me enlightenment. So the master said, you know it. You know it. I live it. You know it. I live it. So that is the difference. We all know intellectually, body impermanent hai, paisa impermanent hai, power is impermanent hai, everything is impermanent. Why to fight? We should have good relationship. We should behave properly. All that is intellectually known. But when it comes to practical level, we are not able to live it because only it is an intellectual understanding. At the deeper level, the kleshas are working, and the kleshas are so strong that they make us act in a certain way. They make us behave in a certain way. And the most strong klesha is the avidya, which is the identification of totally wrong ideas. When the idea itself, the perception itself is wrong, all the actions based on those perceptions, all the assessments based on those wrong perceptions are going to go wrong. We cannot have right action, right thinking on the basis of wrong perception. If the perception is wrong, everything will go wrong. So yogi is interested in correcting this perception. So this sutra is very beautiful. It is telling us about breaking this bond with the body. So what yogi tries to do, it is about, this sutra is about weakening the hold of kleshas, karmas, and vipaka, that is consequence, that is sanskaras, on the chitta and its bondage to the body. So bahirkalpita vriddhi, here yogi is trying to meditate in a such a way, he is trying to conceive of himself as existing outside the body. That is what he does. So what is the object of Sanyama? The object of Sanyama is that this chitta, this mind, we will loosely call it mind. Because as I told you in English, there is no better word to translate chitta. So we use the word mind. So imagine that mind exists outside the body. So he's doing this. That is the object of Sanyama. And gradually when he is able to do it, the bondage on the body goes on becoming weak. And he is able to really experience that he exists outside the body, independent of the body, free from the body. Now there are several such kind of instances in modern writings. You will find so many people have experienced out of body experiences, particularly those who are maybe sick. In medical science, so many such examples you will find where people have gone through certain experiences, near death experiences, and then they reported that they were outside their body and they were able to observe their body as an object. So these kind of instances are recorded in history. That is what yogi experiences. He feels himself outside the body. But what happens, it is two such kind of experiences are there. One is, why I'm saying this, because there's a word which is used in Sutra, Bahir akalpita. Akalpita. Kalpita means imagined. Akalpita means unimagined, real. So mind may remain within the body and still one may feel that he is outside the body. That experience also can take place. But that will not be the real thing, in the sense it will be imagined thing. Because mind is still inside the body and person is experiencing that he is outside the body. And there, if he continues to feel this way, experience this way, continue to feel this way, then a possibility comes that he can experience actually himself outside the body. And when such experience comes, that will be known as Bahir Akalpita Vrittir Mahavidya. Mahavidya is, disincarnate, one who is bodiless. This idea, some of you who have attended Sutra, Chapter 1, Sutra 19, Chapter 1, Sutra 19, we had discussed about Prakriti, Linas and Videhas. The same idea is there in this Sutra also. They are not talking about Prakriti, Linas, but they are talking about Videhas. Disembodied self, a mind which is without body. So the chitta can exist without body. So such kind of experiences are being talked about here. And why they are significant? Because this is not an ordinary siddhi, it is not an ordinary power. We have recorded cases where yogis have claimed that sitting at one room, they have traveled in the space and they have visited several places. And the veracity of their claims have been checked by checking the details of what they have said and comparing them with the actual place. And many scientists, many researchers have found that what yogis are saying is truth. So how did they come to know about it? The other day before yesterday, I think I came across one WhatsApp message where they talked about this Shiva temple at Somnath. So at Shiva temple, one particular formation he showed in the video, and there was an arrow marking towards sea, and some words are written, And the words say that from this point to the South Pole, there's a straight path. There's no obstruction. Now, Somnath temple is very ancient temple. How did the person who formed that or who constructed that come to know that from that point till South Pole, there is no obstruction, there is no land, only water is there? How did they come to know? Because it was physically impossible for such an individual sitting at Somnath temple to visit the South Pole. Now also even the modern man has to take a lot of support of the gadgets and very special machinery and ships to be able to reach the South Pole. So how did they come to know? This is just an example which came to my mind. So there are claims that people say that without body they can travel and they visit places and then they are able to provide. So all those instances are there. That is a siddhi. But even if we leave aside that siddhi, the importance of siddhi lies in the second part of the sutra. Siddhi part is okay. It is fantastic. And it makes us think and it makes us wonder whether it is possible or whether it is not possible. All that is okay. But the second part is very important. And what is the second part? Tatah prakash avran shaya. Tatah prakash avran shaya. What does it mean? From that, the veil or the cover over the knowledge is removed. Cover over the prakash is removed. So what is this prakash and what is this cover? This is very important. Now again, if you have been following sutras very closely, then when I am saying the word Tatah prakash avran, immediately it should ring bells in your mind. Where else these two words have appeared? If you are studying sutras, you will remember
Pranayam Sutra, sir.
Pranayam Sutra. Tatah kshiyate prakashavarnam. This is the sutra which has come in chapter 2. So here this idea is connected to that. So what is this prakash? This prakash is buddhi. This prakash is sattva. Prakash is another name for sattva. We are able to know, we have the capacity to know. Our mind has got the function of knowing because there is sattva guna in the mind. That is why you will find earlier this word prakash has again, if you are following sutras, prakash word should immediately ring some bells in the mind. Prakasha kriya sthiti shilam bhutendriyatmakam bhoga apavargartham drashyam. Chapter 2, Sutra 18. Prakasha kriya sthiti shilam. What is prakash? Prakash is sattva. Kriya, rajas. Sthiti, tamas. So prakash, tatah prakash avranashaya. When this kind of siddhi is attained, then in that case, what happens? The veil or covering over the mind of the yogi is removed. It is destroyed. Shay ho jata hai usko. Weak ho jata hai. Now, what does it mean in simple language? It means that we all have sattva guna in us in the form of buddhi. That is the prakash we all have. But how does our buddhi function? How does our mind function? Does it happen that often we are struggling to understand things? We are confused. We are struggling. Somebody says something and immediately we are not able to grasp what they are saying. Or we are reading something complicated and we are not able to understand what is being read. All this happens because our capacity for knowledge is restricted by tamas and rajas. Tamas and rajas are coming in the form of karma, vipaka, klesha. These are responsible. So kleshas restrict our knowledge, our emotions, our feelings, our desires. They restrict our capacity to know. If we are totally independent of all these, our capacity to knowledge becomes manifold. Like scientists, what scientists say, be objective. Be objective so that you can know the truth. Scientists say that. What do they mean by that? They mean that remove all the extraneous influences on your capacity of mind and try to understand things. Then perhaps you will be able to understand things in a much better way and a much deeper way. And we are all the time subject to our desires, our feelings. Sometimes our feelings are not allowing. We are in a very, very important learning situation. And suddenly we look at a person whom we dislike. And the moment we look at the person we dislike, it will trigger some kind of reactions in the mind, and that immediately our capacity of knowing will become less. And we'll not be able to grasp the entire situation in which we are. This is often experienced by every one of us. We may not notice it. But when the mind is under the influence of some feelings, under the influence of some desires, then its capacity for knowledge goes on becoming reduced, less and less. So here, with this siddhi, all these extraneous influences of kleshas and karmas and even vipakas. So I'll give you a simple example. Just understand, this is very deep and this is very important. If we grasp this, then we will understand where yoga wants to take us. Just understand this. Whenever we are acting under the influence of some klesha, we are creating the bindings, we are strengthening the bindings, and we are restricting ourselves. And whenever we are functioning in an automatic way, in a predetermined way, in a reactive manner, we are restricting this capacity for knowledge and we are creating further problems for ourselves. So a very simple thing would be, suppose if I abuse you, if I say something wrong to you, you will react to that. And that reaction will be very, very predictable from the point of view how the mind has been programmed to react to such situations. So if you are acting, or if I am acting according to the programs which is already there in my mind, then what I am doing, I am strengthening that program. I am strengthening that groove which is there. I am strengthening that nervous system path which is already there. And if I want to change it, then what will be there? How can I change it? How everybody can change it? One can change it only by not falling prey to the predetermined pathway. Stopping oneself. So somebody says, we get angry. Instead, becoming angry is a pre-programmed thing. We are habituated to that. We are programmed like that. Earlier, we have learned that if this is the situation, anger is the appropriate response. And if that response is coming very, very automatically, then what we are doing, we are falling prey to the past. We are falling prey to the kleshas and karmas. We cannot escape because we are strengthening the pathway which is already created. Some irritation comes, we get angry. Some irritation comes, we get angry. So we are strengthening that pathway. We cannot escape from it. Now, yogi's way is slightly different. So somebody abuses, yogi is also getting angry. The reaction might be coming from the sanskaras because sanskaras are there. But then with the conscious effort, with the effort of his will, he tries to stop himself from reacting and he asks himself, is it appropriate for me to act in this manner? Is it appropriate for me to react in this manner? And if the viveka or the discrimination of the mind prevails, then the power of the kleshas is reduced and the person, instead of reacting, would choose not to react and keep calm, keep quiet. And when this happens, he has been able to break the pattern. He has been able to break that automated, pre-programmed thing which is there in the mind, which is making us. Throughout the day, what are we doing? This is very important. Just think about it. How important it is. Throughout the day, what are we doing? 99% of the time we are reacting. We are not acting consciously. So most of the time we are only strengthening what is already there. And what is already there, it has not helped us a lot. So it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. Body also responds in that manner. Mind also responds. Feelings are there. Because of the feelings, we act in a certain way, almost predicted. Some people behave in such a predictable manner that something happens, you can say that he's now going to behave in this manner. If we witness very close family members, for example, with whom we have spent time, years together, If something happens, the person who's living in the family, he knows now this person is going into exactly in the same manner. It has become predictable because the person is reacting, and reactions are preconditioned. They are pre-existing. It's like the program which is there in the computer. Computer cannot act differently than what it is programmed for. अगर कंप्यूटर में जो प्रोग्राम है उसके आधार पे ही एक्शन होगा, हमारा माइंड भी ऐसे ही कंप्यूटर के जैसे काम कर रहा है. So if we want to change that, then reprogramming has to be done. Like if we want to change the features in the computer, we have to bring another operating system with some other features which we want, and we will install that. Then the computer will start behaving or acting in a manner which we want. Same way, our mind is like a big computer, and if we want our mind to think differently, understand better, know better, then we'll have to change the already existing programming. And yoga is nothing but new operating system. When we learn yoga, what we are doing is we are bringing a new operating system for the computer called our mind. And with that yoga programming, we are reprogramming the computer called mind so that the mind can act in a better manner, so that mind can understand better. Now, this is the importance of the second part. Tatah prakasha avaranashaya. Prakasha avaran. All that which is covering the capacity of the mind to know, that will be removed, that will be weakened, so that the capacity of the mind will come forth and it will be able to understand the truth. And again, I'm sure if we are practicing yoga since some years, our capacity for knowledge, our capacity to understand, our capacity to empathize, our capacity to deal with life situation has definitely improved. It is definitely better than what it was when we started yoga. That will indicate what I am talking about. That will show what we are really discussing, what is at stake. And unless this happens, we are not really moving on the right path of yoga. Out of the 24 hours, 1 hour we do our asanas and we feel good, we feel healthy. That is not all yoga is about. Yoga is much deeper than that. Yoga is about transforming. Yoga is about transforming the body-mind complex. And all of us have that capacity. No, there's no exception. Yoga treats everybody equally. Yoga is for everyone. Anyone who's practicing yoga will experience these kind of things. So this sutra is important to understand that this Prakash Avrashya idea, we are all having some restrictions in the form of past karmas or whatever actions we have performed. Their impressions are guiding us. Their impressions are weakening us, restricting us. So it is like, if we consider ourselves like a train, we are forced to run on the tracks on which the train is standing. We cannot change the path. The grooves are made. So the vasanas are there, the desires are there, the impressions are there. And those impressions will immediately come to surface. The moment situation comes, any situation comes, these past sanskaras will prompt us, guide us, persuade us to act in a certain way. It's only when we think deeply, only when we become aware that this is how we are behaving, this is how we are acting, then we can bring about a little change in our personality, little change in our minds, little change in thinking patterns. We start feeling slightly differently. We start seeing things, perceiving things differently. And now ultimately the most important mantra of the modern psychology. All the secret lies in perception. The world will become the way you perceive it. You will become the way you perceive things to be. So perception is very important. Long back, Sankhya and Yoga said, wrong perception, avidya. That is the root cause of all the trouble for us. So if we change this perception by experience, and this perception cannot go just merely by thinking, intellectually thinking. So like a cigarette smoker, who knows cigarette smoking is injurious to health. He reads that and he takes out a cigarette and smokes. Now recently, Alcohol also has been found to carcinogenic. So now entire world is after liquor manufacturing companies to post a warning on the bottles of the liquor and wine that the alcohol can cause cancer. But I'm sure people will read alcohol can cause cancer and still they will go on drinking, those who want to drink. So intellectual knowledge doesn't help much. Many times we know that certain things are wrong and still we pursue them. Still we go after them. Overeating is bad. Many times we overeat. In spite of knowing overeating is bad. If something is tasty, we overeat. So this principle is applicable in everything we do in life. And when the correction will take place, when we come out of this automated behavior, this reaction, and we start thinking for ourselves, and that can happen from experiences. And experiences are also there. It is not that experiences are not there, but we have to build on those experiences. So when we are doing asanas, when we are doing some good meditation session, mind undergoes a change. Mind becomes much more knowledgeable, much more sensitive. It can understand things in a better way. When the mind is steady, we experience so many good things and we can learn a lot. So when that happens, or we experience some very good state of body, very good state of health, very good state of mind, where we feel that we are in control, where we feel we are in command. Now we have to build on these experiences, and these experiences come to us from yoga. So one such experience is in the form of this siddhi, which is very high, maybe not reachable by us, people like us. But then principle is not invalid. And principle is not that it is not applicable to us. The same principle is applicable to us at our level of life, where we are facing certain problems. And these problems are coming to us because of the past karmas, because of the past sanskaras, the attitudes we have. We may have negative attitudes. Then no amount of good opportunity helps, because negative attitude will cancel all the good which is there in front of us. We meet right kind of people, but we are so critical that we don't take advantage of that. We think we are too great and we don't take advantage of good people who come in our life. We don't acknowledge them, we don't recognize them. So this way we are throwing away the opportunity nature is providing us because of our own thinking and attitudes. And these thinking and attitudes are coming from our past karmas. We need to think about this. This sutra is very important. So it is pointing out to certain weak areas of our personality, because of which we feel restricted, because of which we feel limited. And if we pay attention to them, then perhaps we can go on improving. And day by day, some improvement can occur. There are questions.
So,
Yeah.
so I just had a few things. I'll say all of them, and then whatever you can just throw light on some things. So
Yeah.
one place you said that chitta gravitates towards material things.
Yeah.
The definition of chitta itself is very pure, unattached to anything. So there was some confusion related to that.
Yeah.
Should I say the other things also, or should we go
No,
one by one?
first we will clarify this.
Huh.
See, when we are talking about chitta is not very pure. Chitta is a conglomerate, and chitta has got both kind of sanskaras. So when a person dies, his chitta as it goes outside the body and then it will assume another body. So when it will assume another body, it will not carry only the good sanskaras of this life, but it will also carry the bad sanskaras of this life. So chitta is a mixed bag of bad and good, right sanskaras and wrong sanskaras. But in that, the predominant sanskaras are of avidya. That is why it is necessary for the chitta to find a place where it can give expression to whatever it has. So that is why it is gravitating towards the body. Otherwise, it will not be able to find, like I gave the example of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says that the person who has really worked on himself and he has done some really good deeds, they will not be wasted. He will be born in another life, in another body, and these very actions which he has done in this life, they will come to his rescue and they will help him to carry on further. So again, if he has done good deeds, they also have to find some expression. For that, he has to be born again. So as long as these desires, these sanskaras, these karmas are there, person will have to go on getting birth till one is able to attain that liberation which yoga talks about, or the nirvana which Buddha talks about, or Mahavir talks about. Yeah. Yeah.
So other thing is, you said for mental health,
Yeah.
one of the criteria is also high self-esteem.
Yeah.
So what would the typical traits be of a person who has a high self-esteem? What are the characteristics of that?
One of the most important characteristics would be that person will not get rattled by the normal happenings around him. He will maintain his calm, he will maintain his cool, and his mind will be in balanced state. That will be one of the most important criteria one can have of a person who has got this good self-esteem. Normally, why when the violence takes place, or when the person becomes violent, why he becomes aggressive. When he feels any kind of threat, he will normally become aggressive. So that threat, when he feels that threat, that is his weakness. A person with good self-esteem, he will not feel threatened. Normally, it happens in office. We are 4 employees together, and if one employee is now really very intelligent and he is going closer to the boss, immediately we will start feeling insecure. We'll start feeling jealous, and then immediately we will do something foolish. We will do so that that other person loses importance and we gain importance in the eyes of the boss. This is the normal behavior. But a person who has got good self-esteem, he knows what he is doing. He will not be bothered about such things. He knows what is to be done. He will do that, and then he will leave it there. So he feels very secured. He feels very balanced. That is a good self-esteem. Normally, all our negative behaviors are connected to wrong kind of self-esteems and wrong kind of self-judgments. Either we are thinking, giving too much importance to ourselves. So like they call it in psychological language, we call either a person has got superiority complex, then also it's a problem. Or if he has got inferior complex, then also there is a problem. Only a person who has got right self-esteem will have no such complex. And when the complex is not there, he will not feel any trouble. He will move through all the life circumstances in a very smooth manner and dealing with all situations in a very proper manner without losing balance of mind.
So can I ask one more if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So one of the things you said is reacting, right? I mean, person reacts when things are not as per the expectation or whatever. I mean, so whatever the situation, there could be situations where one tends to react. Now, if one has learned not to react at that time, but still that thing keeps bothering that person. Okay, boss, this was not right, and till the time that person sounds, like, unless in my case, if I don't blurt out in the right way or whatever, sometimes the wrong way also, I don't feel comfortable. That thing just stays at the back of my mind, and it bothers me. There are times when I also give the feedback. 60-70% of the feedback may be in a neutral tone, but just because of maybe under the influence of kleshas or what, maybe I get a little aggressive also for the 20-30%.
Yeah.
So the good thing is, yes, I'm not reacting at that time sometimes, but even while giving the feedback on why it kind of aggravated me or whatever, I think there's scope of improvement there. But I don't know, any suggestions you have to improve this further?
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, now most of the time, when we want to express something, when the reaction is coming and we are not reacting, if it is not done out of understanding, then that will give rise to a lot of stress. And today, modern man, modern world, most of the stress comes from this fact that people want to express, people want to react, but they are not able to react. So suppose if your boss is very insulting, sometimes you are standing in front of this is just an example which I often use. We are standing in front of our boss and he's abusing us, he's saying something wrong. And then we are burning inside and there is a paperweight on the table. We feel like taking that paperweight and throwing on his head. Or there's a paper cutter on the table and we feel like taking that paper cutter and poking that in his heart. That kind of feelings we get in our mind. But can we do that? Because our job is at stake. We cannot leave the job. We need that job. So we are just, inside we are burning, inside we are so stressful. Now that will really give rise to stress. The blood pressure will shoot up. All the, adrenaline will go up. All the stress hormones will go up and body will be really burning at that time. So this is the modern man's situation where, but then you see, these are the circumstances which are very normal in and everybody acts like that. But then if we really think deeply about it, why this reaction is there, he is insulting us, or and because the job is there, we have to compromise, and because of this, because the circumstances are forcing us, we have to really accept that situation. But as far as possible, in that circumstances also, if a person is very balanced and he has got very good self-esteem, then he will very politely convey his displeasure, or he will say, I will not take this. Sometimes if a yogi is being talked about, he will say, I don't want this job where you are not understanding. He will convey properly. But if the boss is still insisting on the wrong things, he will say that, okay, bye bye. So they will part ways. So there are ways to deal with but one thing is there, when something is done out of understanding, when we know why we are doing it, then that will not cause harm. Like one example is given, practicing Mon. Now a person is practicing Mon, he's getting irritated and he wants to speak, and if he doesn't speak, what will happen? He will develop some illness.
Internally.
Yeah. So this has to be done with lot of awareness. Why it is happening, why I am doing it, how far I can take it, how far I should take it. So there is a fine line of self respect and you know kind of so ego also is a like tricky thing. So this requires little training, this a lot of awareness. But one thing is there, that the moment we become aware that this is how we are tending to react, that itself is half battle won, because we know how we are reacting and what is happening. Then perhaps we will learn some way of overcoming that. It's a tedious process and it is a very long drawn battle. Years it takes to really change from old pattern to new patterns. It's a behavioral training basically we have to give ourselves.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? So we leave it here.
एक बार ये जो आशीष बोल रहा था कि ये 30-40% कई बार अग्रेसिव हो जाता है,
हाँ,
तो इसकी वाइफ का नाम शोभना है। एक बार दोनों में काफी बहस हो गई, आर्गुमेंट हो गए,
हाँ,
और मामला काफी बढ़ गया, तो आशीष ने एक झापड़ मार दिया शोभना को।
अच्छा।
बाद में इसको अवेयरनेस आई कि गलत हो गया, तो उसने समझाया कि भाई देखो, जो प्यार करता है वो ही मारता है। तो शोभना ने एक झापड़ इसको मार दिया, बोली मैं भी बहुत प्यार करती हूँ आपको।
अजय भाई मैं यहीं पे हूँ, प्लीज।
गुड वन। दोनों में अवेयरनेस है। क्या है? So good. We had become serious, so now we can leave at a little lighter note.
These sutras are so boring otherwise, but the way you explain it and
Yeah,
the
yeah. You take a lot of pain.
pain,
Yeah.
and I mean you make it so I mean they're maybe the sutra, if I just read it, I will not, I'll pick up 1% of what you said, but there's so many other things that you mentioned, you connected it to.
Yeah, yeah. Make
Yeah,
it more
so
practical. Yeah.
thank you, sir. Very
Yeah.
nice.
See, all the credit goes to our teacher, Dr. Jaydev.
No, that is there.
Amazing.
But you also work a lot.
You retained it so
Yeah.
well, sir, and you are continuing, no? You're helping people like us gain
Yeah,
from whatever you learn from him, sir.
No, he always taught us to apply it to life. It is some idea, and particularly sutras are all relevant to our life because they are talking about us. They are not talking about something other. They are talking about us. They are related to our life. So they have to be seen and understood and discussed in relation to our life. And every time we hear something, we have to ask ourselves, how it is relevant to me, how it is applicable to my life, what benefit I can derive from understanding this, how it can help me. So if we ask these questions, then these ideas really are helpful. That is what Dr. Jaydev always used to teach us. So connecting the sutras to life, connecting the sutras to experiences, this is important. Otherwise, then it becomes a fantastic idea just to be discussed and forgotten about. Yeah. That should not be happening. No?
And actually, देखो, honestly, since you were saying, Ashish, Niranjan has not only knowledge, but he's practicing all these things. And whenever he's speaking, he speaks from the heart and not from the mind. So that makes an impact. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.